Hello. Hello, Chibi baby. Okay. I'm just going to type the topic. Gonna type the topic here. Thank you. I'm feeling the love. Hello, Maternity Hub. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. My name is Dr. Ejomai Darsit. I'm the founder of the Eddie and Amy Company. Hi, I guess it's here. I'm founder of the Eddie and Amy Company, and what we basically do is provide education and self-care kits for mothers to help them guide them through recovery in the first few days after they've had their babies. Recovery and then also some breastfeeding support. Hi, Tolu. Sorry, if what Tolu is this? Tell me what Tolu. I'm sure I know like 10 Tolus. So our guest today, her name is Barrister Omaedo Osamor. She's already here. Please, can you request to join? Okay. So waiting for her to join now. Hi, hello. Hi.
How you doing? So good to have you here. Be on your platform.
It's been, how many years has it been? It's been a while.
Yeah,
I don't know,
maybe like
6
years.
Wow.
It's been about that.
Lovely. I'm so grateful that you were able to join, and you agreed to come and have a chat with us today. Okay, so I'm just going to, so everyone, our guest her name is Barrister Omaedo Osamor. I'm just going to read her bio. She's the managing director of Samuel and Doxa Legal Practitioners. She's a solicitor and an advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria and was called to bar in 2005. She's the founder of Lilmissfab, a trending shoe brand for women here in Nigeria. I used to be a Lilmissfab shoes addict.
Yeah.
She's also a member of the advisory board of Revolution Plus Property. Before flagging off her private legal practice, she worked extensively in the oil and gas industry as a company secretary and has a fair knowledge of human resources, employment, and training business consulting. She has attended certificate courses in human resources and personal development, maritime capacity building, effective business communication, and several core courses on corporate and secretarial practices. Her core areas of practice are company law, real estate, company secretarial services, corporate governance, strategy and planning, solicitor services, and special projects. She's a chartered secretary and as such is an associate member of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators in Nigeria, as well as the Nigerian Barr Association.
Sounds so impressive.
Superwoman! Superwoman! Okay, please, could you tell us a little bit about Lilmissfab before we get to the meat of this discussion?
Okay, so Lilmissfab is my latest baby. I will call it latest.
Baby?
Yes, because this is now my own brand. Right. I started selling shoes over 10 years ago, about 12 years ago, 2008 to be precise. But I used to sell known brands, then as in all the nicest shoes, but other brands. But then I stopped at some point because the dollar went up from 170 to 235. Little did I know that it was going to hit 400 one day. So it was a challenge at that point. So I had to stop because then we didn't have social media marketing the way we have it now. And it was a challenge trying to get people to adapt to your new prices. So I just stopped and concentrated on my company secretarial legal advisory because I still worked full-time in-house where I worked. So I just concentrated on my legal work. But then I wanted to come back after a while. I left my job, and then I really, really wanted to go back to sell shoes because I love shoes. I'm sure you know that already.
Yeah.
So, but this time around, I didn't want to come back the way I had been doing it before. I didn't want to sell shoes like everybody else on Instagram. I wanted my own shoe brand. I needed to cut a niche for myself.
Yeah.
And so that was how Lilmissfab came about. Yeah. So we did the whole legal back end work and all that, and then sourcing for the shoes, the production, everything. So it gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
That's what Lilmissfab is about.
I think it's a real asset to like have your background, like your legal background, and set up a business, because like everything is tight, like trademarking.
Oh, okay. I did all. In fact, I crossed all my T's and I dotted all my I's with Lilmissfab. Yes. So getting the legal work done was not hard because with Samuel and Doxa, you know, I'm jack of all trade. Well, I'm master of some, but with my law practice, I concentrate more on small and medium scale enterprises. So I just wanted to replicate what I was preaching to everybody out there to do with their businesses, with my own business. So getting the legal back end set up was not really a challenge. What was the main challenge was now the business itself, looking for the factory to produce your shoes, you know, giving them designs, coming up with prices, the quality, all that. But so far so good. We've been able to balance out, and we're still learning. We keep learning every day. Yeah, so that's where we are. We're 1 year old now. We were born in July 31st. Lilmissfab was officially born.
Okay. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, you've been in this business for a while.
I have. At least like 12 years now.
My thing is, it's really good to be able to, you know, work with other people's products, and then based on the knowledge and the experience and the feedback you've gotten from that, you know, then launch out into yours, as opposed to starting from scratch with yours and not having that.
I think that helped me a lot.
Of what Nigerian women want.
Yes, exactly. I already had an idea of the kind of target market I was looking at and what they really wanted. So that it was easy for me to cut a niche for myself. But staying true to that niche has been a little difficult. But one thing I've learned is that once you stick to something and you decide this is what you want, and you have a reason why you want it that way, it would stay that way. So I try as much as possible to target the working woman, comfortable, trendy shoes for the working woman. I'm not just doing shoes for just everybody and anybody. Yeah, so that's my niche. Yeah.
Well done, well done. Okay, so today we're talking about sickle cell disease, as has to do with motherhood, raising children, and so just basically, I just want to give a little bit background. Sickle cell disease is actually a genetic disorder that affects the red blood cells. These are the cells that carry oxygen around, and the oxygen is what all the cells in the body need to carry out every single function that they do, like grow, build up, everything. Like the basis is the oxygen is where the energy source, where the body and all the cells get its energy source from. So but with sickle cell disease, there's a mutation in the gene. So what happens is that the red cells, instead they lose their ability to carry this oxygen effectively, and also the protein that carries that oxygen also is modified. So what happens is that when there are low oxygen levels, or there's any form of stress in the body, these cells, instead of they start to, let me just say, misbehave. They form a sickle shape. They flatten out, right? But it's like a C shape. And what happens with that is difficult. The regular red blood cell can easily navigate its way around tiny blood vessels and bends, you know, as they twist, and in areas like the hands and other parts of the body where it gets to supply those organs. But when they sickle, first of all, they are not as flexible as they should be, and they have a tendency to also stick together. So when they are not flexible, if you look at the picture I'm illustrating here, they tend to block these tiny blood vessels. And what happens, like when you tie, if we've done this thing when we're kids, where if you tie your hand, after a while you start feeling numb, and after a while it starts to hurt really badly. And this is because you've cut off the blood supply to that part of your body. So they have very, very painful. I'm not even going to, because I've not experienced it before. I'll allow Oma to talk about it, but they have painful crises, the part of the body that is supplied by those blood vessels that are blocked off also get cut off from their food supply, their oxygen supply. So sometimes it can clog up and let go, and then so when it clogs up, there's damage because of the cut off of the supply. And then when the blockage is freed up, the resurgence of blood also causes damage to that area. So it affects every single part of the body, from the top of the head all the way down. Children can have strokes, can have issues, damage to the eye. When you get older, your bones, the parts of the bone, the bones in the body produce blood as children. But as you get older, they reduce their production, and then the production is now focused on the long bones, like your thigh bone, the long bones of your body. But for people who have sickle cell disease, because the blood keeps on, the cells that destroy this, and blood keeps on the body keeps on having to produce more cells, those bones still produce blood vessels. And that's why you have some people having what they call busting, which is like, I don't want to call it like ogo, because those bones are still swollen and all that. So if you're coming down, they also have painful chest, acute chest syndrome, painful chest crisis because of those occlusions. They can have pain on their hands, their digits, their feet, all those places where the blood vessels kind of narrow down to supply those areas. It affects the spleen, which is an organ that is very, very important for immunity in the body. The liver, it affects reproduction, it affects puberty, it affects the kidneys, So there are so many layers to it. And the only reason why, if going back to our biology, the only reason why the gene is still circulating within, let me just say Africa and the regions where it's predominant, is because when you have the trait, the malaria parasites, which is endemic in this area as well, finds it very difficult to survive in the red blood cell. So that's the reason why that gene is still there. So sometimes things happen in nature to protect us from particular insults, right? But when you have, so people who have AS, you find they hardly ever have malaria. But when you have somebody with the two genes, then that's when there's now a challenge. So so basically what we're going to be doing today is just talking about, I said we're going to talk about, sickle cell disease and how it affects a real human being, because these are just not numbers. Yeah. So let me just start with your childhood. How was childhood for you?
Well, from when I can remember from when I was 3 years old, that was when I started having like active crisis. I think before then I used to have crisis, but my parents couldn't necessarily figure out what was wrong. Yeah, because I'm the third child, and my two older ones did not have those challenges. So as at that time, my parents got married in 1968. So as at that time, it was just we're in love. Nobody really checked for genotype. So it didn't really occur to them that there could be anything wrong. But when I kept having like persistent pains here and there, admission in the hospital, eventually they found out I was a sickle cell patient, and they were able to do their genotype, and they saw they were both AS. So I had a very good childhood, as in my family tried as much as possible to make it very normal for me. But I had several challenges with crisis, because as it is when you're a child, first of all, as a sickler, you're expected to take some drugs every day, daily medication, to get me to take my drugs. I wouldn't outrightly say no, but I would skip drugs. I just didn't see why I should be doing what other people are not doing. And to make matters worse, I actually, in my house, we're 5 kids. Myself and my immediate younger sister, who is late now, we were the 2 sickle cell patients. So, and we're pretty stubborn. Let me put it that way. We just wanted to be like every other normal kid. So I can remember several times when I was 5 years old, there was a time I was in the hospital, and the crisis I had, I don't even understand, but they said I had perforated intestines. It was just crazy. I've been through a whole lot. Always complications from a crisis or something, it comes to something else. But at every point, I've jumped these hurdles. So that's how my childhood was. But one thing I liked was that my parents tried to ensure that I lived a normal life. They didn't over pamper us. At the same time, my mom always did research. As a child, I couldn't take carbonated drinks. They just noticed that whenever we take carbonated drinks, maybe if we don't, yeah, it always causes a crisis. So it was up until when I was in boarding house in JS1 that I ventured to go and take coke by myself. And that was out of my own stubbornness too. Yeah. So that was how life was being a child. Yeah.
Okay. So based on that, how do you think that moms can handle, moms who have children with sickle cell disease, how should they approach the fact that they have to take medications regularly, and also when they have to go into hospital?
Well, I said we everything in life is a mindset. When you know that you already have this challenge, the child is in your home already. Like coincidentally, I have a friend now, my friend now, who has 2 children and 2 of her boys are sicklers. Apparently, when she got married, she thought she was AA and she thought her husband was AS. But by the time she was pregnant with her first child, or when her first child was 1, they found out that they were both AS and he was SS. You know, you have to find a way to be able to communicate with the child and let the child make it look like fun. There's a way you would pass that information across to the child that the child will want to take those drugs. Like for me, there was always that better take your drugs so you don't fall sick. You understand? Just hearing that alone, you're already rebellious in your spirit. Like, what's wrong with these people? Is it because I'm, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you come from the point of view of, oh, take this drug so you can be big and strong, so that you can be this, you know, there are just ways to navigate these things. You know, quite all right. I'm thankful that I'm here. I'm 40 now. I turned 40 in May. So that's a huge milestone.
Yeah.
It's a huge milestone. Yeah, I'm here. I'm healthy, and I've been able to. I've gone through so much, but yet I have accomplished a lot, and I have, you know, I'm here. Yeah. So if my parents were to do some things differently, I would advise them to. They would have been do a lot more research and let the child feel normal. Let the child, you know, associate what you're trying to tell the child to something that is positive. You understand? Just be in it with that child. That would go a long way in helping. You understand?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So in terms of your puberty, how was that for you?
It was a challenge because a lot of things were happening at the same time, and there was never a time that this crisis really stopped. You could take care of yourself. Sometimes it can be prolonged. Like now that I'm older, I can go a whole year and maybe it will just be one crisis.
Okay.
Or sometimes, in fact, I've gone like almost 2 years and it will just be minor crisis. When I say minor, there are some that I can absolutely deal with. Like maybe when my arm is hurting me or my leg is hurting me and I can deal with it. You understand? But there are some parts of your body that if you go into a crisis there, you don't have to, you don't have to land in the hospital. Yeah. So, but growing up as a child, it was a lot more challenging. Number one, I wanted to be like every other teenager. Number two, I went to boarding house. And I'm very grateful that I went to boarding house because there was something my mom kept saying that I love my child, but my child is not always going to be with me. So I need her to learn how to be by herself and live by herself. So the only thing she used to do was she would ensure she comes over. They used to come see me almost every time in secondary school. I was in Queen's College in Lagos here. My parents were in Lagos, so it wasn't so tough. My dad would come on Thursdays, my mom would come on Saturdays, or sometimes, you know, it was just, we'll always go to the sick bay. Sometimes she'll go and count your drugs and ensure that you'll be taking your drugs. You know, she'll be friends with you.
Threw them away?
My mom was very hardcore. She was friends with the matron. She was friends with the doctors, the nurses. So what they'll do most times, they'll call me to their office and make sure I take the drugs in front of them.
Right.
You know, but there's some other things that they could not ensure that I do. Like drink a lot of water. You know, it's good to always take fluids. Till now, I still struggle with it, but I try to put it consciously in my head. You know, it's just like an alarm in my head. Even if you're not feeling thirsty, just stand up, drink water. You don't know, stand up, drink water. You understand? Yeah, so that helps me a bit. So growing up as a child, it was a bit tough. And then, you know, you're in boarding house, you're with other children who really don't understand what you're going through. There are only very one or two people that were sympathetic towards my cause. And then in my set, I can identify maybe we were like 2 or 3 sickle cell patients. One of them I was pretty close to, but she was not in my particular class. But when she sees that anything was wrong, she'll come visit me in the sick bay, or if she sees I'm not feeling fine, she'll give me a painkiller or something. So, but generally I had to struggle with trying to explain to these people why my leg was hurting me, or why suddenly in class I became very sick and they had to carry me all the way to the sick bay. It was a bit challenging, but one thing I liked, or one thing I've always known, I've always owned myself. I've always been a strong personality. So I did not allow other people's views or the way they would treat you or behave to come between me and how I felt about myself. Yeah, so yeah, that was how puberty was, and being a teenager generally.
Were there delays in, you know, onset of menstruation? Was there anything like that?
I don't think so. I'm a very lucky person. I think everything happened to me like as at when due. Even now, anybody looks at me, they don't know. It's until I mention it that you can be like, are you sure? You know, and I have the strength of a horse, you understand? So, you know, I was lucky. Everything happened at the normal time. I started my menstruation at 13. I grew up like normal kids. Everything developed as at when due. Of course, as a child, I struggled with that yellow eyes thing. Yeah, I struggled with it. Yeah, sometimes still yellows, but now I can manage it a little better. Yeah, and then I also struggled with anemia. My blood level was almost always quite low, you know. But now growing up, I know what I should eat, what I can take, what can help, you know, and all that. I think knowledge is very important. Growing up, I have been able to, you know, study and learn what to do and what not to do. In fact, a lot of times when I land in the hospital, I mostly prefer to tell my doctor what has worked for me, because some doctors are ignorant of this matter. There are some of them that don't know. I've had a doctor give me iron tablets before, saying that I had anemia and that would help me build it up. Meanwhile, I'm supposed to, it can cause poisoning in my system. You understand? So,
because iron is not the issue. Iron is not
exactly.
the issue. You actually have an overload.
In fact, I have excess because of how fast the blood cells die. I more or less have like excess of the iron in my system. So you can't pump more iron into the system.
Yeah. But you take folic acid. You do take folic acid. Okay.
I do. Okay. I take folic acid quite every day. Yeah.
So do you take things like hydroxyurea? What are the things that you have to take, you know, routinely?
Okay, well, routinely, besides folic acid, there's this drug that came out at some point when I was 15 years old. I remember my mom actually took us to where they were like producing it, the pharmaceutical company that was producing it in Abuja then, because my mom was very passionate. She wanted Jobeline.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Jobeline. Yes, and Jobeline helps with building your blood and, you know, immunity and all that. Yeah. And that other one came out later, the sickle cell one. Yeah. Yeah. So we went there, and even before they had even generally come out to the market, we were already taking some of those drugs because my mom just wanted us to be okay. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I take Jobeline. I take Astimine. I don't take Astifa. Astifa has iron in it. So I take Astimine, the folic acid, then I take vitamin C, a high dose vitamin C, just so that my immunity is top notch. And B complex. Yeah, and then I take Paludrin every day because I have to keep off that malaria. Yeah, Paludrin. So that's basically.
Okay, sorry. So that's basically it. So how was it for you, like relationships, you know, growing up?
Well, to be honest, I had challenges. My first real set of relationships started when I was in university. And, you know, I usually, you know, because I had grown up knowing that when you're in a relationship, you should always find out about the person's genotype I should always let the person know about their genotype. But yet again, like I mentioned, a lot of people are ignorant about these things. So like the first few people I dated in university, maybe they hear that you're a sickle cell patient. Their mind is, I beg, let this one not come and die on me. You know, and then they scam. Yeah. I've actually had like 2 or 3 people just stop talking to me because I mentioned that to them. And it was hurtful. But another thing again I thank God for is that I had a strong personality. I realized that their opinion of the matter or their opinion of me did not make me. So it kept me going, and it did not stop me from informing other people. Yeah, but so I had one of the first, maybe when I was like 300 level, the first real relationship I had like for like 2 or 3 years. He knew me. He was my friend before we started dating. So he knew me with the crisis. He knew me with the crisis. And because we're pretty good friends, he was like cousins with my best friend. So he was always around. So he had been used to like maybe coming to visit me in the hospital when I'm on admission, or when you're in a crisis, sometimes you want somebody to massage your leg, massage your back, massage your this. You just always want somebody there. He was already used to all that. So he liked me as a person. It didn't matter to him what my genotype was. And he was AA anyway, so he didn't really care. Yeah, he didn't really care. Yeah, but for him, it was from his part, it was support. He was very supportive. He would make sure I take my drugs. He would make sure I don't do things that stress me, stuff like that. And he even let his mom know that I was a sickle cell patient. And his mom happened to be, she worked in the university. So when she saw me, whenever she saw me, maybe like, because I schooled in the University of Jos, and Jos was pretty cold. Yeah, Jos was pretty cold. So if she saw me on a day that there was harmattan and she thought I was not properly dressed, she would make sure I go back home to go and get a cardigan or something. So that was a good one. But I had my fair share of ignorant people not wanting to date me because of sickle cell. And then now, by the time I was through with school, law school, and I had started working here by myself in Lagos, I dated somebody who understood what was going on. You understand?
Yeah.
She was I always made sure I always dated people that were AA because I know what stories that
yes.
yeah. You know, there was just no point here. So he was AA, he liked me and all that. But then, you know, people always have this mindset of, you know, people are different.
Yeah.
I've had relationships where they feel like, okay, anyway, I like her. She's a nice girl. There's nothing wrong with her. I can look after her. I can marry her. But she's not going anywhere anyway. She's looking for an AA person. So I've had those kind of instances too, where people try to disrespect you in a relationship because they feel that you don't have a choice, or they feel that other people are going to reject you anyway. You know. But yet again, I mentioned, thank God that I'm strong and I don't let other people's opinion. Yeah. So I find myself working out of relationships like that. Yeah. Yeah. So
really, as parents, they also need to try and build up the child's self-confidence, because
exactly,
it's
it is very important. Yes, very important. That was something my mom did for me. She always let me know that I was not beneath anybody else. Nobody else was better than you, even if you had that genotype. She will always tell you something, that your body is a casing. It's the way you look after it that matters. That there are some people that don't have sickle cell. They are probably AA. But they have some other, either maybe not genetic disorder, but you see children who have maybe liver function problems, or you have kidney issues or heart issues. They may not be sickle cell, so they're not going through what you're going through, but they have their own challenges. Everybody has their own challenges. So when I got into Queen's College, there were my classmates that had asthma, and then it looked like the asthma was even, I was thanking God for the sickle cell, because the asthma looked worse to me. As in when my classmate that had asthma was having an asthmatic attack, it looked fatal. It looked like she couldn't breathe. It looks like she will soon die. You know, you understand what I'm saying? But to me, I knew that, okay, if my leg starts paining me, I know it's coming. You know, it's either I start to take drugs, or I start pumping myself with water, or I quickly just find my way to the sick bay and they start giving me drip or whatever, you know, and all that. So it's very important for the parents to try and build up the child's self-confidence. It's very, very important, because this life is going to throw lemons at you. And people are savage. People are going to throw lemons at you, even with your health that you had nothing to do with. Yeah. So that was a challenge I had to overcome. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks so much for that. So I was just wondering, so now how did you finally settle for a partner? How did that conversation come about?
Well, when I eventually was going to get married, it was mutual. It was somebody who had known me. He actually was friends with my younger sister, who was also a sickle cell patient. Mm-hmm. So he had known that there was, we had that challenge, and settling with somebody was the thing about settling with. So let the person love you for who you are first. So we were friends. And then for him, he had a very nurturing spirit. He wanted to take care of you. He wanted you to be okay, just like the person I said I had dated in university. And so it wasn't very difficult. In fact, it was after we had started becoming friendly that he went to go check his own genotype, and then he found out he was AA, and he was so excited. So when he found out he was AA, it now gave him the courage to want to like officially ask me out. And so for me, besides being AA, what was also very important to me was somebody who understood what I had gone through and what can possibly happen in the future. It was very important for me to date somebody like that. So my husband was somebody who just wanted you to be okay. And from the beginning, he knew that there could be challenges ahead, but he was willing to go through with it. That was how it happened. And I got married at 29, so it didn't really necessarily affect me. I live my life quite normally. I try to live my life quite normally. I think everything is a mindset. Because I did not dwell on the sickle cell, I acted like I was a regular babe. I just had preferences. I would prefer AA over AS, So everything, right. So everything happened naturally for me. Yeah, everything happened naturally. Yeah.
All right. So now, when did you decide, that you wanted to start trying to, how far into the marriage? How did that conversation go?
Well, to be honest, as soon as I was getting married, I wanted to start trying for children immediately. Yeah. As soon as I was getting married, because I love children. Everybody wants their own child.
Yeah.
So it was a conversation we had, although my husband was not in a hurry. He just felt, okay, why don't we just chill a bit? But I was like, well, I'm still young. Why don't we start trying? And like 4 months into the marriage, I was very feverish one day, and the first thing that comes to your mind when you're feverish usually is that you have malaria. Yes. But because of what I had gone through in my life, I learned not to self-medicate. Yeah. And besides, I thought I was trying for a baby, so I went to the hospital. I found out that I was pregnant. I think I was just newly pregnant. I had just barely missed my period. I was newly pregnant. At the same time, they found out I had malaria plus. Okay. And my blood level, my PCV was 19, so it was pretty low. It was pretty low. So, yeah. So, the fear then was, we need to give you a blood transfusion. I've taken blood transfusions a couple of times in my life because a lot of times it's trying to save your life kind of thing. Yes. So I wasn't averse to it. Let's try and give you a blood transfusion. Let's try and see if we can save the baby. Let's try and see if we can, try and fight this malaria. So it was a lot at the same time. So trying to fight the malaria, trying to save the baby, everything. 1 week in, I had a miscarriage. For that baby. How many weeks was this? Roughly, it was roughly about 5 weeks. Okay. 5 weeks. It was a new pregnancy. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I had a miscarriage. Of course, it was quite hurtful. Yes. It was quite hurtful, but then I realized that I now learned that, see, this is not child's play. You're not like everybody else. So if you're going to try and have a baby, you're going to have to take extra care of yourself. And then I started trying to ensure that, malaria does not catch me, stuff like that. I just started trying harder, and I was trying. And then 6 months after that, I found out I was pregnant again. Okay. Yeah, so it was happening naturally. There was nothing wrong. There was nothing stopping me from getting pregnant. I found out I was pregnant again. And this time around, they checked. I was okay. I didn't have malaria, and all that. They just gave me a date, come to the hospital on so date. They will do your first scan, and, take your drugs, do this, do that. And like maybe a week before the day I was supposed to come in for the scan, I was driving. I was actually driving. And I felt the sharpest pain I've ever felt in my whole life. You know, I don't even know how I drove because I was driving from Sheraton to Bagada. Till tomorrow, I don't know how I drove to my house with that pain. But I managed to get to my house with that pain. Luckily for me, my husband was home. The pain was so much, I collapsed in front of my house. He had to come and carry me into his own car. And then we got to the hospital. And guess what? I had an ectopic pregnancy. Apparently, the fetus had been growing in my fallopian tube all this while.
Okay.
How I survived that thing till date is a miracle.
Yes.
I know for sure that God has been working in my life. It's a miracle because my blood level was low. I was pregnant. I was bleeding internally. I was bleeding profusely internally. They had to get me into the theater ASAP as soon as they found I was bleeding internally. And they hurriedly tried to do the surgery, trying to save my life. That day, they gave me the epidural because they wanted me to be awake while they did the surgery. So my husband was in the surgery room with me. It was very heartbreaking because my older sister at the same time had found out that she was equally pregnant, and our EDD date was on the same day. You understand? So we're already excited about having twins like that, you know, and we're quarreling on who Momsi was going to stay with, you know, stuff like that. So it was quite painful for me. And so funny thing is that she had her baby on that same EDD date. You understand? So you can imagine it was quite painful for me. For a while, I was quite depressed. And that surgery, the first surgery went well. A day after, apparently, they did it so hurriedly because they're trying to save my life. I don't know if it's that they did not stitch the place inside well. I don't know what happened, but they were trying, at the same time, they were trying to give me, I took over 13 pints of blood because they're trying to ensure that as I was bleeding, you know. So as they were trying to give me, maybe they were pumping me. I don't know how it happened, but the injury inside opened up again. And this time around, I started bleeding more profusely. I actually went into a coma. I didn't even know what happened for like 3 days. You know, I just know that from far, I could hear my doctor telling me, just stay with us, don't go anywhere, you can do this, you can survive it, you know. And I came out of it. And my doctor told me that this is the person with the lowest, because my PCV was 9 by the time they were done with all these things. Person with the lowest PCV that he has ever treated that survived it. So I came out of that. But then for a while, for like 6 years after that, I had a challenge getting pregnant.
But did they have to do, was it in the tube? Was it in the tube?
Yeah, no, the baby was, so they took out the tube.
Okay.
No, it was in the tube.
Okay.
It was in the tube, He was almost actually in the womb. Okay. So it was half in the womb and half in the tube.
That
was what happened. So they took out that tube. So I've had one tube.
But
so,
you know, I've one anyway, so.
Yes, exactly. So I've gone back and forth because at some point I wasn't, you know, getting pregnant again. I've had all those tests that they'll do to check if your tube was clear, all those painful things, you understand? Gone back and forth. You said?
The HSG.
Yes, that HSG is terrible. I don't wish it for my enemy.
Oh my, you know, the thing is that in medical school, we would, you know, they're teaching about, you know, assessing a woman for you know, childbearing and all that. You know, sometimes you just see the consultant, you just write it HSG until the day I had to do it.
That HSG, God forbid. It was really, I did it twice. Terrible. Oh man, terrible. You know, and you know, finally, you know, I went back and forth, and then eventually I landed with the hospital. I think they actually follow you, and they're super, 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 super amazing. I landed with South Shore, and they were the ones that told me that possibly from that surgery I had when I had the ectopic pregnancy, maybe I had scar tissue in my womb. Yes. So even if I got pregnant, it was difficult for me for it to implant. You understand? It probably won't implant, and you know. So I went through that. I did a minimally invasive surgery. You will know what they're called. I can't remember them now. The ones that they don't go through. They just put a hole in your stomach and then they put a camera there. Just to check your tubes and to check inside your womb and ensure that everything was okay. And I think they were able to take out the scar tissue like that from there. So from there, you know, it's just been crazy that every time I've had those kind of procedures, maybe it comes with the genotype, I don't know. I've had severe health scares. And from there, to be fair to the hospital, they had done all their search. I did an x-ray. I did every other test that a regular person probably won't even do. Because of my genotype, they made me do an x-ray to make sure my chest was clear before they did surgery, you know. And the surgery was supposed to be something that I would go into, and then the next 2 days I'll be home, or the next day I'll be home. But then somehow after the surgery, you know, they noticed that my oxygen level was dropping. It dropped from the 199. At some point, it was 46. Till tomorrow, they don't even know how I survived it. I'm telling you, it was 46. So they moved me into their like intensive care, and they said my lungs, there was fluid in my lungs. They don't even know how the fluid got there. Yeah, so I had fluids in my lung. They had to bring a lung therapist to try and get fluids out. When they saw that, you know, because I wasn't getting enough oxygen, my organs wasn't getting enough oxygen. They were afraid that I was going to start shutting down. I eventually landed in Lut, the almighty Lut. You know, I landed in Lut, and that was the scariest 3 weeks of my life, because I was in the high dependency unit. Or I had to use a ventilator, and you know. I would mention this again. It is very important for you to let your child, or whoever it is that has that challenge, know how important the person is, and let the person believe in themselves, and let the person know that other people's opinion, once you are strong and you believe in something, you can make it happen. Because even while I was in Luth, you know, I was fully intubated. At a point, I was in a coma for like 3 days, you know, but I heard conversations I shouldn't have heard. But because I was strong, you know, I had doctors, you know, student doctors talking, and somebody was saying, oh, her genotype is this, with this thing she's going through. I don't think she's going to come out of this, you know, and stuff like that. And I heard, you know, maybe like the matron fighting for me, saying we're praying for her, she's going to come out of this. So if I wasn't strong in my spirit, I wouldn't have made it. You understand? So besides what is going on physically with me, the fact that I know who I am, and I choose what I decide, and I choose what happens to me. You understand? It all comes from your mind. If you fight for it, if you want something, it would happen to you, you know. And at the end of the 3 weeks, as God will have it, I came out healthier than they could even think. They could not even believe it. You know, I had to go for checkup for like 6 months, you know. So, and you know, now age was ticking. Now I was 38 years old, you know. So, but the doctors were like, just take it easy. Just take it easy. Make sure you get well fully. And then at that point, you know, my friends, I have a friend, one of my best friends from secondary school. She's a consultant radiologist in the US. And she started talking to me and advising, why don't you just try and use a surrogate instead? You understand? So you don't have to put your body through all this stress. You understand? And of course, for a while, I thought that I was like, oh, I want to carry my own baby. But now, to be honest, is my child, is my biological child. Even if it's not my biological child, a child is a child. I just love children, and I just feel that I've learned to accept that, you know, what is going to happen to me is going to happen to me. I've been through so much, and I feel that for the fact that I'm still here, despite all these challenges, then God must have a plan for me. So I'm pretty easygoing. Yeah.
So I don't know what I should say. I'm sorry you went through that. But I also know that that I think I remember seeing the post that you put up. This must have been way after it may have happened.
Yeah, like a year
and all that. And then you know, you had pictures of yourself and things like that. And I think that somehow also you are a light to other people. Because I mean, at the time we met, I remember we were talking about you know, I think it was at my house or something, and then we now started talking about fertility, because I was trying at the time as well. And I don't know, I just felt I gained a lot of strength from you just having that conversation, you know. But one thing I want to say is that the things that you went through in terms of like the first miscarriage, the ectopic, you know, they're not necessarily things that I don't know how to put it. Even people who don't have sickle cell have that. I mean, usually miscarriages in the first trimester, nobody knows what causes it. You know, you know, they usually say, oh, that maybe there's a genetic component, in the sense that if maybe there's a chromosome, there's something with the DNA that's wrong. The body just generally, like, it's not
Rejects it.
compatible with life and all that. So, and then even with ectopics as well, it happened with everybody, you know. But yes, there's a discussion of obviously having to go through all those procedures and the things that had to be done in order to, you know, save you and all that. Definitely there were stressors that may have, you know, caused a crisis, you know, or things like that. But as in, I just feel like you're such a light. You've done so much, you know. Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to just get that in there so that no one is under any impression that, you know, it's primarily. But you see, the thing is that even with that, there's a psychological aspect of it. Have you ever, at any point in time, you know, thought, because even when people who don't have sickle cell have miscarriages, there's so many questions you have in your mind, like, you know, when you're pregnant, your immunity is lower. So you're prone to getting malaria as well, you know. So has there ever been any time, you know, when you're like low, and how did you get out of that? How did you
Yeah, of course, I'm human, so I've had things go through my mind several times. Like sometimes I just angry, like maybe it's because of the sickle cell, maybe it's, you know, you just wonder if, you know, because you see other people are getting pregnant easily and breezing through it, and I know that it's not necessarily happening to me because of my genotype, but I realize that my body is not exactly, is a little more vulnerable. You understand? It has gone through a lot. A crisis alone is something that can, a crisis is something that can, I don't know how to explain it, to be honest. When anybody asks me, how do you feel when you have a crisis? I cannot explain. You know, this thing I'm telling you, just 2 weeks ago, I was on admission. I was on admission and I could not just, the pain is, I can't explain it. You understand? Your whole body goes through so much. You know, it goes through so much. My late sister had malaria. We actually had a crisis together. And we're in the same room. I insisted to the doctor I wanted to be in the same room with her. So we're on admission in the same room. Yeah. And she had malaria. And then malaria became a crisis. That was what happened. You know, and it was so much. Her organs started failing, and then she couldn't cope. So at that point, I just didn't believe that anything could ever happen to my sister. So in my mind, it never occurred to me that my sister could ever die anyway. So, you know, but I noticed that I wasn't feeling any better, but they discharged me and just told me, okay, take this, make sure you take this, because they knew that she probably wasn't going to make it. You know, they discharged me like a day before. So I've had those thoughts come to my mind, even up until recently. You're human. A lot of things happen, and you know, you just feel that, oh, by now, you know, like I mentioned, I turned 40 this year. Beginning of this year was a stressful time for me because, you know, sometimes we, as human beings, we tend to build our successes by what we feel we have achieved. You understand? Yeah. And beginning of this year, I was borderline depressed because I felt like, oh, I'm going to be 40 this year. I was excited I was going to be 40, but then, you know, so one thought kept coming to my mind, like, okay, so what have you achieved? You don't even have babies yet. You understand, that kind of thing and all that. And then as quickly as it comes, because I realize I'm a source of encouragement to other people. Yeah. Sometimes things happen to you so that you can be strong for other people, so that you can let people know that you can go through this, you know. And I'm a natural encourager. So as soon as those thoughts start to come to my mind, I try not to allow them linger. And so if you realize, if you follow me on social media, you would see me always celebrating one child's birthday. I carry it on my head like it's my own child and it's my birthday, you understand? And I just go all out. I just feel that the world has given me so many children, so many people to love, as in, you know, so that's the way I live life these days. I live one day at a time, and I'm grateful for the time I have, and I'm trying to make an impact with the time I have. So when those depressing thoughts or those feelings come around, I try as much as possible to push them away, because your mind is your biggest weapon. Your mind is your biggest weapon. So if you allow those things linger on, trust me, you would, before the sickness kills yourself, you'll just be killing yourself gradually. And me, I have too many things I'm excited about to just allow sickle cell do something to me. You understand? So yeah. Right now, I'm enjoying being an entrepreneur. It's challenging sometimes. I'm enjoying owning Lilmissfab, and when I look at the shoe line and I'm like, oh, this is actually my shoe line.
Yeah.
I trademarked it, it is my own. You know, it gives me a lot of joy. I talk to the suppliers, manufacturer, we come up with designs. It's quite fulfilling, let me not lie. You understand? So I just try and focus on the positives these days. And I live life day by day. I still believe in miracles. You understand? I know that whatever will be, will be. So I've not lost hope. I've not lost touch. I know that if it is meant to be, it will be. But right now I'm going ahead trying to do an adoption, and I'm looking forward to that. You understand? You know, so I'm just trying to be happy while I can be happy. Yeah.
Nice, good. So I wanted to ask, have you in terms of treatments, is there anything you've explored? Have you had to have an exchange transfusion before?
Sorry, I can't hear you clearly. I don't know if you're far from.
Sorry, have you had to have an exchange transfusion before? An exchange blood transfusion before?
When you say exchange, what do you mean?
So instead of giving you blood, so they take the blood out and then take blood from you and then replace it with blood, just like what they do for babies who have jaundice.
Oh no, I haven't. But somebody mentioned that to me. In fact, I've gotten people who have told me that I could either maybe do a bone marrow transplant, yeah, to like take out the marrow producing the sickle cells. You know, I saw that those are things that I'm exploring. I'm currently not on hydroxyurea, although I know hydroxyurea is pretty good. It makes your cells, keeps your cells normal for a bit. My younger sister who passed was on hydroxyurea.
Okay.
And you know what they say, that if you're on hydroxyurea and you're trying for a baby, you should stop for a bit. It doesn't stop you from getting pregnant, but it's fatal for a fetus. So because I was trying to have a baby, I tried not to get on hydroxyurea, but it's something I'm considering going forward. My sister was on hydroxyurea, and she had taken it for 3 years straight, she didn't have a crisis. She had a huge crisis in 2012, and she started hydroxyurea as soon as she got out of that crisis, and she didn't have a crisis till 2015. And then we later found out she was very, very, very stubborn. We found out that because she was planning on getting married towards the end of 2015, and she was like, oh please, she didn't want anything to be taking, anything that would stop her chances from having a baby. And I tried to convince her that no, it's not going to stop you from having a baby, it's just that you shouldn't be taking it while you're trying for a baby. But since you aren't, you know, so apparently she got off hydroxyurea without anybody really knowing. And when she had malaria, it hit her big. The crisis came. In fact, what took her life was not so huge compared to what she had gone through in the past. You understand? But she couldn't she just couldn't withstand it. It was a lot for her body. And that was how she passed. It took me a lot because she was my best friend, you know, and she lived in my house. She worked in NAFDAC, so it was very tough for me, you know, for a while. But now I choose to remember her. You know, I feel that everybody has a time. Whether you're sickle cell or not, you have a period. So what is important is the impact you make with your life while you're here. And she did make an impact with her life. So I've learned to live with that. Initially, I used to be guilty and feel that there was something I could have done better. I could have made her take her drugs. But we're all individuals. We're all adults. So, you know, so I'm just trying to make good use of my time here. And I pray that I live a long, healthy life, you know. But I pray that my life will be meaningful. In as much as it will be long, let it be meaningful. Yeah, so that is what is important to me currently. Yeah.
So I wanted to also ask, okay, so you're not on hydroxyurea, you're not on anything like ACE inhibitors, nothing for kidney protection or anything like that. Can you hear me?
I don't know what's wrong, but I can barely hear you suddenly.
Okay. What do I do? Can you hear me now? I
think it's better.
Okay. So I was asking, so before you started trying to get pregnant, because were there any of the other drugs that you were taking every day that you stopped?
No, all the drugs I was taking was more or less routine.
Okay.
Yes, there was no drug I had to stop. No. Okay. There was none I had to stop.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I'm really glad that we had this conversation. My thing really, because there's a mom in the chat box who's saying that she's pregnant.
She's a sickle cell warrior.
Yes, she's pregnant as well. So
well, I think she just had a baby. She said she's a new mom.
I think she can't wait. Okay, during her pregnancy. So I'm very curious as to know how it was, like, how she was managed and all that. Because I remember in Luth, I mean, your same experience, having to have patients with scans more regularly than usual, things like managing preeclampsia and all that. There was a lady I saw, she was having twins.
Wow.
Twins. Yeah, she had preeclampsia, but I mean, we really struggled, but she came through, she pulled through, and she had twins. That was it was really beautiful, to watch. It was really beautiful to watch.
Yes, I remember in 2014 I tried an IVF. In fact, I did the IVF twice.
Okay.
And I had 3 grade A embryos they were going to place in me, and the doctor was so afraid because he felt that everything was perfect and that the likelihood of it not implanting was lower than you understand.
Okay.
So he was really afraid to put the 3 in because he didn't want a situation where I'll be carrying triplets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that's like a high risk pregnancy on top of the condition. Yeah. So thank you so much. I don't know, is there any question you want to ask me? Is there any question anyone wants to ask Oma in the comments? Maternity Hub says that you're such an inspiration. Says you should write a book. Another revenue stream. Another revenue stream. Yeah. So now back to the fun part also, like shoes. Like, so how do what's on the line right now? How do people order? Tell us a little bit more about Lilmissfab.
Oh, okay. So currently I run an online store.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy. I have a website, although I'm currently trying to update my website.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people order through my Instagram handle. Okay. I think I'll drop that down there in the chat so that they can see it.
Yeah.
It's lilmissfab.squad actually, not just Lilmissfab.
Sorry.
Yeah. So they usually, when you see anything you like on my page, you can order it. And then
so what about people who have like really big feet? Like, I know all the...
Oh yes, I actually cater for size 36 to size 44.
Okay.
Yeah, so I actually attend, in fact, most of my customers, my bestseller sizes are usually the bigger sizes from 41 and above. So that's my niche. And another thing I can do, what I do is I try to cut a niche for myself, because for me, comfort is very important. For everything you do, you have to understand why you're doing it. So I'm targeting the working woman. I'm big on career, and I feel that you should look trendy while working. Yes. So for instance, if you're comfortable wearing high shoes, we can make the same shoes for you in different heel heights. Okay. Yes. So some people are really good at wearing very high shoes. I can make 5 inches, 4 inches for those people. And then for the ones who are not so keen on wearing high shoes, they prefer the lower shoes, I can make it 2 inches or 3 inches for you. So it depends on what you want, we can produce it for you. So we can pre-order, like I've had like a bride pre-order her color, her particular design and all that. And I've been able to produce that for her. And so those are the kind of things I try to cut a niche for myself. Custom made shoes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Oma. We have 45 seconds left. God bless you. I wish you all the best in your journey, and please keep on inspiring us, and keep up with the hard work in your legal profession and your shoe brand and the real estate side of things.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure being here. Don't worry, next time I come here, I'll come with good news.
Thank you. Amen. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, EJ. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.